In the late 19th century, American poetry was dominated by what Walt Whitman dismissed as teapot poets, writers who were obsessed with parlor romance and aristocratic ideals, completely divorced from the grit of real life. Edwin Arlington Robinson rejected all of that. He grew up in a bleak Maine town, watching one brother succumb to addiction and losing the woman he loved to another. He had zero interest in flowery language, preferring the plain, unvarnished speech of the working class. He spent his time observing the misfits and outcasts of his town. As an obsessive reader of British literature, particularly Charles Dickens, he realized these forgotten locals had lives just as complex as any character in a Victorian novel. His goal was to write realistic, psychological portraits of drunks, dreamers, and failures, capturing them exactly as they sounded on the dirt roads of Water Street. But his early attempts had a mechanical problem. When Robinson tried to capture these novel-sized human struggles in standard blank verse, his poems drifted. The narratives wandered without reaching a sharp, impactful ending. He needed a container that would force him to be ruthless. He found his solution by hijacking the Petrarchan Sonnet. For centuries, the 14-line sonnet had been the exclusive domain of courtly romance. Robinson repurposed its rigid boundaries as a mechanical vice to compress sprawling stories of poverty into tight character sketches. The structure provided exactly what he needed. In the first 8 lines, the octave, Robinson establishes a specific psychological mystery. To save space, he strips out explicit prose descriptions entirely, leaving the reader to look for a character's true motivations in the subtext. He frequently utilized Dickensian punning names to reveal behavior. An isolated, aging man is named Ebb and Flood, a phonetic play on the ebb and flood of his human fortunes. The opening of the poem creates a heavy atmosphere of withholding. The reader assumes the role of an investigator, forced to piece together a person's internal life from what is left unsaid. Then, at line 9, the poem hits the volta, a structural fault line shifting the narrative. After this chasm, Robinson has only 6 lines, the sestet, to close the story. This limitation demands intense verbal restraint. He literally has no space to ramble. Instead of wrapping up the plot neatly, Robinson uses these final lines to leave the character's fate objective and unexplained. Here in the sestet of the poem Aaron Stark, he presents a final image of alien piety, forcing the audience to interpret the silence. By pairing this unforgiving structure with his signature heavy, rolling meter, Robinson ensures the narrator always sounds like a distant observer. The rhythm marches forward, refusing to let the poem devolve into an intimate confession. This mechanical trap prevents melodrama entirely. By stepping back and observing a ruined life from a slight distance, the heartbreak becomes sharper. The tragic waste of a human life speaks for itself. This precise engineering was built to house subjects that the hyper-materialistic Gilded Age wanted to ignore. Robinson held a deep philosophical conviction that what capitalist society labeled a worldly failure often masked a quiet, resilient spiritual success. He took suicidal millers, grieving butchers, and lonely alcoholics and placed their stories inside the most prestigious architecture in the English language. Housing these outcasts in a sonnet was a deliberate way to elevate them. It granted a profound dignity to the broken, constructing a reverent space where societal judgment cannot breathe. His mastery of plain speech and dark, homespun realism built the exact framework that 20th century modernists would rely on. He is the direct precursor to poets like Robert Frost. Edwin Arlington Robinson proved that you don't need a sprawling 500-page novel to capture the devastating complexities of a life. When engineered correctly, 14 lines are enough.